of course I knew the name of the Nichols-Roy family, and I was very interested to read the book. So that was, she never went there, but my father did go, and he actually filmed the celebrations, I think in 1971 or 72, to which Indira Gandhi went and others. So he had that special experience of being there when the state was announced, yes. And so he always had a soft spot for there, as did my uncle, because he fought in the Second World War, and he was evacuated out wounded from the Battle of Imphal. But he went back there, and he wanted to carve some crosses out of the bamboo that was growing there. He went with some Naga friends. They wanted to find the best bamboo, and they carved it and brought it back. And he gave one to General Slim, who was I think the commander of the Indian Army Forces. Because my uncle actually, when he was wounded, the soldier next to him, who was an Indian, was killed. And they thought he might have been dead, but they evacuated him out and he recovered. So these bamboo crosses were for all those who lost. But I think Viscount Slim, who was the commander, he had this bamboo cross by his bedside. It was one of the few things that he had when he died. So there's lots of history. One can get hard to know what to bring to the fore. But I think one thing that profoundly influenced my grandfather was, as Bremley said, he was a serving officer with the British Raj, but he met this movement, and he felt that some of the attitudes that he had were wrong, and he made an apology to some Indian civilians and soldiers for his arrogance at that time, and he also apologized to his wife for his arrogance towards her. So when the British command said to him, if you ever apologize, it's not our policy to apologize here, if you apologize again you'll be demoted. He was speaking with his wife, and his wife said, well, if you apologize to me, I'm very happy for you to apologize to anyone. So he was demoted, but it had an influence on my father. When Bremley said that my father worked for this movement for peace and reconciliation, that's how it came about, because it started in the family with more peace and reconciliation in the family. And we were always, I think, my father was influenced by the Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy of be the change you want to see in the world. So I think in terms of value-based, anything that we do, social entrepreneurship and so forth, starting with that, it's easy to criticize, to blame others, but what can I do personally? Is the kind of the founding values of the movement that Bremley and I have been involved with. And Bremley mentioned this centre in Switzerland. I was actually in Geneva last week, and I was co-organising a workshop linked with the Geneva Centre for Security Policy, which was the summer academy that you were on, Commander. And the co-organiser of the workshop was from the Right Livelihood Award Foundation, and they give awards. They call it a bit like the alternate Nobel Peace Prize, and it's interesting because it's for kind of big solutions for global problems. They'd actually given the Right Livelihood Award Prize to the 3 Nobel Peace Prize laureates of this year about 10 years ago. So these 3 are from Russia, Belarus and Ukraine. And as it happened, we were there, and Ulla, who from the Right Livelihood Award, said, yeah, I've got an important guest here, and she's at a kind of loose end over the weekend, and maybe we could go up to the Co Palace. Do you know anybody there who could just show us Co, this thing that looks out over Lake Geneva? So I contacted my friend, who's a retired British guy married to a Swiss who lives there. He's the one person who can show you the history. And he said, yeah, I can do it. So we went, and I said, well, I've got the former foreign minister of Sweden is a guest of the Right Livelihood Award, and she'll be coming up with us. So he said, fine. And I must say that Bremley, I really learned things about code that I'd never known. He was amazing the way he gave us that tour, because the place had been one of the best hotels of Europe, possibly the world, at the turn of the 18th, 19th century. It was built for and he was saying in a way, it was of course that the British were starting to build train lines, and they were building train lines up mountains in Switzerland for the great and the good to go on holiday, and experience skiing and so forth. And so many writers of the world, people like F. Scott Fitzgerald, Rudyard Kipling, Maharajas from India, the Maharaja of Baroda, and people associated with the aristocracy in Britain were going to this place. So F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote part of a book called Tender is the Night when he was staying there.